Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is November 10th, and right now we are looking at the infrared satellite imagery. I got British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, all the way to the upper right here, and you can see our strong frontal system knocking on the door with lots of cold air aloft behind it. We're going to get some strong winds, some rain, some very cold air behind the system as well. But this system out across Pacific Ocean is going to pack even a greater punch as far as wind speeds are concerned. It's got some atmospheric river characteristics with it as well. We got the storm train lined up here, moving into the Pacific Northwest. We've been waiting all year for this, and now finally it has arrived. Taking a look at Seattle yesterday, 53, 54 is the average high, just 600ths of an inch of rain, but we got a lot more on the way here, folks. And we have excessive rainfall outlook. The National Weather Service has definitely taken notice here to our storm train moving into the area. This is for day 3. This would be for Tuesday morning through Wednesday morning. This is Wednesday morning through Thursday. We're going to have multiple rounds of rainfall coming in here as we go through this upcoming week. So let's back this up and take a look at where we are right about now. And you can see this is that frontal system moving into the area. You notice this loses a bit of its punch as it moves towards the region here. So this frontal system is not going to be quite as windy as the next. And I'll show what I mean right here. You can see this one is developing right off our coastline. Strong low pressure will be right here off of Vancouver Island, kicking up some big winds, some big waves, and we got some mountain snows rolling in here. And we got that 1-2 punch coming right there. And then things turn a little bit more out of the northwest. And we've been showing this in the extended runs here. We were dropping down some cooler air out over the Pacific Ocean. We'll be watching that closely. We're starting to get out into towards Fantasyland as I speak here. And this is all the way in towards next week. So we'll be watching this here, but it looks like we may indeed remain active as we go on into the week plus time period here as we go on in towards mid and later portions of November. So taking a look at the timing of this is the North American model. You got Seattle, you got Portland here, there's Oregon, California, and you can see Vancouver Island where the data cuts off right there. But you can see the frontal system moving in as we go through the day today. Still dry for Seattle, some showers still around for places like the Willamette Valley and Portland, but then this moves in as we go through tonight. Look at this frontal system just draped across the region, some mountain snows, and then we bring this very cold air in aloft as we go through the day. Monday, we're going to destabilize things, thunderstorm potential with that, show you more on that here in a moment. And then as we scroll off in towards Tuesday, you can see the next deep low pressure off Vancouver Island setting up as we go through Tuesday afternoon. Now, let's back this up, and I'm going to scroll through this fairly quickly because you can see all the convective available potential energy, and this is really going to set up shop across the region as we go through the day Monday, and that's what's going to develop and fuel this thunderstorm threat. Now, if we take a look at the HRRR, the High Resolution Rapid Refresh, this shows lightning flash density potential. So as we scroll through tonight into tomorrow morning, notice how this picks up as we start to go through late Monday morning on in through Monday afternoon. You can see the thunderstorm potential approaching Vancouver Island, the coastal regions, maybe even towards Seattle or Portland. Willamette Valley, can't rule out some lightning strikes here as well as we go all the way on through Monday night. Check this out. This is late Monday night here, so you could get some thunderstorm activity all the way through Monday night by the time that wraps up here as we go through Tuesday morning. And if you want a fun weather station here, and this has a lightning detection system with it, so you can watch these lightning strikes show up on your weather station, tells you how far away they are. It's all solar powered, it's all wireless, it's got an ultrasonic anemometer. Smartphone app is great, stores all the data for you in the cloud. Highly recommend this weather station. It's one of the best options you can do for the price, no doubt. So click on that link down below to save 10%. Now, taking a look at what is coming up here. This is the frontal system, and this is where we are right about now. And you can see that frontal system out over the coastal areas. It's going to bring some blustery conditions and some fairly windy conditions for some of the central and the Oregon coast with its arrival as we go through this afternoon and tonight. You can see the winds pick up there as we go through tonight and then kind of move through, and then we watch and wait to see what is to come after that. And you can see the development of our next system as we go through about Tuesday afternoon here. Look at some of these winds for the Washington, Oregon coast, Vancouver Island, northwest interior. Could get some blustery conditions inland, but this is definitely going to favor the coastal areas and the northwest interior and some of the Salish Sea a bit more. But then you see the frontal system pass through as we go through Wednesday morning, some cold air aloft behind that one as well. Lots to talk about. So I'm going to back this up and scroll forward through here. This is by the time we go through Tuesday morning. The biggest winds, again, central Oregon coast with the initial frontal system there. You see, you're talking about some 30, mid 30s here. Not too big of a deal as we go through the day Monday. But this next system is definitely going to pack more of a punch. Look at some of these winds kick up as we go through Wednesday morning. Look at some of these isolated gusts up towards 60, some some big gusts, 50, 55 across the northwest interior. Even Olympia showing 44 there. But you'll notice Seattle and Portland, mid-30s here. And we're not looking at big winds here for the most part for some of the lower elevations. This is not a setup where the low pressure is going to cast a powerful gradient that brings the strong westerlies through the Cascades, for example. So you can see lighter winds across some of the Columbia Basin. But watch out for the coast here, especially as we go on in through very late Tuesday night, and on in through Wednesday morning. The coastal regions are going to get very windy. And if we take a look at total precipitation in inches, I'll back this up and we'll play through that. Here we go, scrolling on in through Monday morning. Look at Seattle, over an inch. Portland, some big amounts as well. And we scroll on in towards Monday night. The showers will be rolling in. And then no rest for the weary as the next system bears down. Look at Seattle by the time we get towards Wednesday afternoon, up over 2.5 inches. Big amounts for the coastal ranges, all the way down through Northern California, the Cascades, British Columbia, Vancouver Island. And you notice the rain shadowing to the east of the mountain ranges here for British Columbia, Washington, and Oregon. You pick some of those amounts back up once you get towards the higher terrain, but for the lower elevation of the Columbia Basin, for example, you're getting much less out of these type of systems. More on that here in a moment. I'm going to show you something here as far as some of these low tracks and trying to get precipitation east of the Cascades. So stick with me if you're looking for that. Now, if we look at the GFS, this is what we're just going to look for agreement here. And you can see the big amounts rolling in here as we go through Monday night. Here we go on in through Tuesday. Second system moves in, and you can see the huge amounts by the time we get towards Wednesday afternoon, especially Cascades west across the coastal areas. Now, if we take a look at something else, we got additional hazards coming up here, because as we go on in through the 12th, you can see some of these tides really start to pick up. This is Cape Disappointment, Washington. Look at some of these tides are really starting to ramp things up. And this is when the king tides are in effect, basically on the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th. And they remain fairly elevated all the way through the 20th here, starting really on the 12th. So we have to watch for big wave action during that time, or any kind of low pressure system really exacerbates some of the ocean heights. The lower pressure allows that water to bulge up and even become higher than what's forecast here. And this is the reason for the king tides. The sun and the moon are lining up, and they provide that extra additional bulge with their gravitational pull on Earth, and that allows for those king tides. So we check the time frame here coming up, and you can see we get a nice shot of waves. We're really the waves are pretty elevated here as we go on in through the weekend, and then we go on in through Monday night into Tuesday morning. We get a nice bump of some wave action there. So that could start to cause some problems, because the waves on Tuesday morning are going to start to become elevated. Then as that next storm system comes in, the windier one on Wednesday morning, these are still some big waves rushing into the Washington, Oregon coast. And as we go through Wednesday morning, the tides are really going to start to get high. So we really have to watch out for that potential beach coastal erosion and waves washing over things and whatnot, because the king tides are coming. And then we go off into the 14th, 15th. You can still see we're going to have elevated wave action during this time. And if there's a storm system development, as we go off into the future a little bit more, maybe one of these storms will come in a bit stronger. And with the king tides around, we really have to watch out for that. Now, taking a look at total snow. So much to talk about here today. Scrolling through here. Let's see. You get some snowfall initially with that frontal system, but then we're going to get the cooler air behind as we go through the day Monday, and you can kind of see that pile up here as we go on in through Tuesday morning. Not a lot for Snoqualmie Pass. That means the snow level is generally going to be above 3,000 feet for the most part, but some of the higher terrain will be picking up some decent amounts. But then we scroll on in through this week, and you can see these totals just kind of continue to pile up. It's great to see in mid-November, because some years we can really wipe away a lot of the snowpack here with some warmer conditions or atmospheric rivers. So this is good to see. We'll see if it hangs around as we get on in towards December. But as we scroll off into the extended forecast, you can even see some cooler air trying to bring some lower elevation snowfall out to the Columbia Basin there as well. So yeah, always something to look at, fun in the future. But we do have some good snowfall totals coming up here as we go through the mid and later portion of November, it looks like. Now, let's take a look at a wider view of things. There's Alaska, there's British Columbia, Washington, Oregon. There is our frontal system marching on as we go through tonight. Cold air behind it with thunderstorm potential. There goes our next strong low pressure center here right off the north tip of Vancouver Island, or near Haida Gwaii, otherwise known as the Queen Charlottes. Another strong frontal system, breezy conditions with that. Wave action will be going on. And then we scroll off into the future. You notice how things become a little bit more out of the northwest. Some cooler air aloft starting to drop down across the region. Excuse me. But yeah, then we'll watch off what's coming in the future because it looks like a lot of cold air wants to spill out over the Gulf of Alaska. And look at that low pressure center out there. That in and of itself wouldn't be too much of a problem. But of course, if that develops a bit closer to the coastline here, maybe with some king tides going on or a little bit earlier than what's forecast right now, that could cause some problems. Now, I always like to show some of the temperatures that are going on above us. This is about 700 millibars or about 10,000 feet. This is the initial frontal system here. There goes that secondary system as we go on in through the day Wednesday. And then you notice some of this cooler air moving out of the northwest. Look at that really spilling out over the Gulf of Alaska. That would cause additional cyclogenesis. Mid-latitude cyclones would be rolling and impacting our region here. So, yep, looking off into Fantasyland a little bit there, but definitely looks like maybe more of a cool northwesterly pattern setting up here for the region. Now, Quileute, I do want to drive home this point that it is going to get windy as we go through Tuesday night on in through Wednesday morning. Look at some of these gusts well up into the 50s. The ensemble mean is over 50 miles per hour. Hoquiam as well, 55 in the latest. And some of these individual ensembles show much windier, even up 60 mile per hour plus. And the ensemble mean is over 50 again. If we look at Astoria showing 50 miles per hour, look at Tillamook, breezy conditions, more than breezy. That's pretty downright windy. And the control red, a little bit lower than some of these ensembles with bigger gusts, even up over 60 miles per hour. And in comparison, you can see the system that is coming through tonight into tomorrow morning versus the next one, the windier system as we go through Tuesday night. So heads up for that one. Seattle Tacoma on the flip side, blustery conditions, but you don't see those huge wind speeds. Even though some of the ensembles still show some breezy conditions with that, we will be watching it closely, but there's no ensemble agreement on the big winds for the interior central Puget Sound, for example, but it will be blustery and stormy. Now, looking at mean sea level pressure and low locations, this is the initial frontal system here. You can see the parent low out here. It kind of hangs off the coastline. You really need this to dive inland here to bring bigger winds for some of the Puget Sound and places east of the Cascades as well. Then the secondary stronger low is going to get a bit closer here, and so that'll bring the windier conditions for a lot of the coast and some of the region also, but still not the best track for interior high winds across the region. Now, 6 to 10 day, look at the west coast here, below average for much of it as you go through November 19th. Here's the 6 to 10 day precipitation, kind of that broad brush across much of the west and central portions of the USA. This is something interesting. Average temperature departure from average. This is over the last 30 days or so. And you can see Washington, we've been above average here for the last 30 days. Oregon, more of a mixed bag. But look at Idaho and Montana, Wyoming, significantly above average for this time of year. It's bound to change at least at some point as we go through a La Nina year, no doubt. But kind of interesting there looking at the past 30 days. That pattern looks to change, though, as we start to bring more of that northwest flow down here across the region. Will that extend to places east of the mountains? That's a good question. We'll continue to monitor that day by day. Here we go with precipitation departure from average. Look at Seattle and Tacoma, Olympia. You've been significantly below normal, -3 to -1.5. Kind of mixed bag elsewhere. You can see the northwest Washington coast, for example, well above average. So kind of a mixed bag here across Pacific Northwest over the last 30 days. If we take a look at the entire year since January 1st, pretty good signal there that we have been above average here for much of the Pacific Northwest. A few areas slightly below normal for some of Oregon there and maybe some of Northwest Washington. Look at precipitation departure from average. Mixed bag for Oregon, but definitely drier here across some of Seattle, Tacoma, Olympia, and especially the Cascades. Look at this. Some places between 5 and 10, maybe even 10 to 15 inches below normal here. So we have some catching up to do as far as precipitation amounts are concerned. You see Idaho, Panhandle, and western Montana also quite a ways below average. But if you look down towards the Oregon coast, Northern California, some areas are above average here since we've been going through January 1st. But anyway, yep, storm train is lined up here. I may even do a live stream tonight. We'll see how that goes. I've been thinking about doing that. I was thinking about doing it yesterday as well, but we may do that just to kind of, do some Q&A and whatnot and see what is coming. We'll check out the new model runs here today. But otherwise, hope you guys are having a good day. Click like and subscribe. We will do this all again either tonight or tomorrow morning, and I will talk to you guys then.